Can you give me a mic check?
Mic check, 1, 2.
No, mic's on. Mic's on.
Be real careful with this.
I hope you're like not like zoomed in my okay, cool.
Don't worry. Like I said, you'll just be on for a couple of sound bites. The rest is covered.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so tell me again on camera your title. Good Lord.
Okay.
What's your name?
Rasha Mubarak, and I am the Central Florida Regional Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations of Florida, which is a civil rights organization. It's actually the largest civil rights organization in the state of Florida. And I also sit on the board of the Muslim Women Organization, president of Young Dems of Orange County, co-founder of the Floridians Responding to Refugees, and president of the Palestine Children Relief Fund in Orlando.
So you're super lazy.
Yeah. I pretend to be really busy.
What do you do all day, really? Wow, okay, I'm feeling like teeny tiny, but okay, that's amazing. So can I say Muslim?
Yeah.
Or
so
is it Muslim?
Muslim.
So
whatever you feel comfortable.
Is it okay for people in the media to say Muslim? I hear it all the time. That's all anyone says.
Yeah, I mean, it's preferred to say Muslim, because sometimes when Muslim, it comes off almost as like a negative way of saying it, but I think that's how people pronounce it, but Muslim is obviously preferred.
Man, so you haven't had it easy. You're a woman, you're a strong woman, you're an educated woman, and you're a Muslim. How is that?
And I'm a Palestinian woman of color too. Definitely, it's been a whirlwind, I think. Being out there in the activism world, it's sometimes at the end of the day, it's like, am I still gonna be that sister living in a brother's world and telling people or showing people that my work is not cute, it's real? And there's a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of silver linings in the work that we do.
Man, so when your typical uninformed person would think of a Muslim woman, you think of a headscarf and, very much submissive to the man and the relationship. You think they can't be gay. You think all kinds of stereotypes that we have. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you covering your hair right now?
Right, so in Islam, just like other religions, there's no homogeneity of what Islam is, right? So we have sisters that wear the headscarf, we have sisters that wear the full face coverage, we also have sisters that don't wear hijab. And it's not that I don't believe in the headscarf, it's just where my spirituality is, where I am with my relationship with God, what my focus is in Islam and being a Muslim. Right now, my focus in Islam is about social justice, or ikhlaq, which in Arabic means mannerism, how we treat people. For me, there's so much in Islam, and there's so much more ways of, not more ways, but there's so many ways of being modest and being Muslim. Muslim is about fighting for justice unconditionally. It's also about feminism. Islam is about how you treat people, how you treat your neighbors.
How can it be feminist? How is that? Because all I've ever learned, and I'm asking you from a completely place of non-judgment.
Absolutely.
I genuinely want to know, how can a woman be expected to be conservative and be her own woman?
Right. So for me, Islam is probably the most feminist religion out there. Islam actually came at a time when baby girls were being buried alive and were said, no, do not do that. Islam came about when people were marrying women and claiming them as their property. Islam said women are not your property. In fact, they get to own property and have wealth. Islam also gave women the right to vote. In the Quran and our Holy Scripture, you will read about so many of the women leaders during the time of the Prophet, during the time when Islam came about. These were Muslim leaders, these were Muslim women that led the Islamic faith. So here in this country, suffrage, women's right to vote didn't come until 1920s, and then for 1960s for women of color the right to vote. So I think it's important to understand that before Western civilization, Islam actually produced the right of women, and so it's unfortunately being underlooked, undermined, and people are missing the real message of a woman's role in Islam and what it means to be a woman, a Muslim woman.
Do you get judged by other Muslim women who believe in more conservative values than you do?
I honestly, I think there's judgment everywhere, but I think true Muslims do not judge, right? So I'm part of an organization called the Muslim Women Organization. And in the Muslim Women Organization, we have sisters that don't wear hijab, that don't wear the headscarf, that do wear the headscarf. It's such a strong sisterhood because we believe in the values of Islam, and that is to protect each other, to fight for each other, to stand up for each other. So it's not so much necessarily Muslim women, but there are a small handful of them. But those are just like, I think in all faiths and all communities, but I think for the most part as Muslim women, we're standing in solidarity just because as a woman, and then as a Muslim woman, and then as a woman of color, we are already facing so many obstacles, so we have to stand united and fight for each other.
Well, yeah, absolutely, especially in this country, especially in this climate right now.
Exactly.
You know, why do they wear the hijab?
So, it's interesting because I always, I have these conversations with a lot of the Muslim sisters. My mom wears hijab, my aunts wear hijab, I have cousins that wear hijab, and I have a lot of friends that wear hijab. And when I tell you, Laura, each story is more powerful than the next. Each Muslim sister has their own reason of why they put it on, whether that be a reason of modesty and to be judged for who they are, not what they look like, whether that's to be liberated from being sexualized, whether that's to be known that they are proud to be a Muslim woman. Each of their own story is so dynamic, and it's definitely, they each have their own story. There's not one reason why a sister covers. So
it's not because this is what we're being fed. Mm-hmm. and I know better, but I know so many don't. It's not because the man doesn't want anyone to look at his property. That's literally what people think here.
No, well, first and foremost, a woman is not a man's property in Islam, and as mentioned earlier, Islam actually dispelled that a woman is not a man's property.
What is Islam to Muslim? Is Christianity to what?
Christianity to Christian. Judaism to Jewish.
So it's the same?
Yes.
Okay. You have no idea how many people you just enlightened. You truly have no idea. So, wow, that's incredible. So all of those rumors, all of that misconception has nothing to do with the man not wanting his wife to be seen by other women. I mean, by other men.
Absolutely, that's not what Islam teaches, and it definitely is not an invocation of that at all. It's about women and her right, and it's her freedom, her liberation, and I think that...
So they have the choice.
Women have a choice. Islam also teaches that many people interpret it differently, right? So there is an interpretation that Islam, there's an obligation to wear a headscarf in Islam. And I believe that there is that in Islam, but I can't say that's not where I am right now. Right now, it's me building my relationship with God, refreshing my intentions, how I treat people, because also the hijab comes with a lot of responsibility. You are walking around and people know you're Muslim, right? So, a lot of sisters, whether they might not swear or they, have to be on their best behavior, there's a lot of that.
Or they could be a target of hate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Islamophobia is up by 500% in the state of Florida. That is... Muslim women that are identifiably and visibly Muslim are on the forefront of this bigotry, from hate crimes to hate incidents, and then obviously the bullying in schools. So to be a Muslim woman in this country, in this day and age, is to be a powerhouse. It is to be a role model of strength and perseverance and resilience. And I'm so proud to be a Muslim woman. I'm so proud of my Muslim sisters.
You make me want to be I'm not kidding. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be sexualized and catcalled in the street, but then again, I don't want to be,
Right.
a victim of hate crime either. It's like, I don't know what to do as a
I
woman.
got pepper spray for that.
My goodness, there's not many options for me here. Okay, so now that you're enlightening me so much, I want to know, why aren't men asked to wear headscarves?
So modesty is asked of both men and female, right? So both male and female, because actually if males are asked to wear longer pants, not above the knees, not to wear sleeveless shirts, to dress very modestly. That's why, depending on whatever culture you like to embrace, there's also men that you will see that wear clothing that doesn't show their body shape either. So Muslim men are also asked to dress modestly and to behave in modest ways, and to follow the footsteps of the Prophet. So modesty is asked upon for both genders.
Yeah. What kind of discrimination do you get as a female and a Muslim?
Where do I begin, right?
Can you give me like a good example? Maybe something off the top of your head that just really sticks out.
Right. I think there's microaggressive discrimination, and then there's full-blown in-your-face discrimination. I mean, maybe microaggressively, people like to think I'm an exception of powerful Muslim women. Why, like if I go and I facilitate Islam 101 trainings for law enforcement agencies, sensitivity trainings, and for communities, universities, I'll get emails or feedback saying, I gotta tell you, you are amazing, and I've never met a Muslim person like you. While I want to accept that compliment, it's definitely negates other Muslim women, because all Muslim women that I know are powerful and have that strength. So as far as the discrimination, I think that's microaggressive in that sense, but also you don't look Muslim, that people think that there's a certain way that only Muslim women look like. There's a lot of sisters that don't wear the headscarf, or they dress like I try to dress modest, but there's also sisters that you'll see them on the beach in a bikini. So like there's no homogeneity of what a Muslim sister is. While modesty is obligatory in Islam, but not everyone goes to church on Sunday or practices Sabbath on a Friday, right? So just depending on where you are in
just like Christianity.
Right, exactly.
You have people who are very spiritual and believe in God, but are not at church and are not, so it's very similar.
And I think what the beauty about Islam is that there's different ways of practicing and worshiping God. Smiling in the face of your stranger or your neighbor is a form of charity. It's a form of worship, giving back to the community. These are all forms of worship in addition to your personal supplication, your 5 daily prayers. Also discrimination in the work that I do. I'm on the forefront of a lot of this bigotry, especially with this toxic climate post a new administration. Islamophobia has been at its highest it's ever been, and the highest in its documentation history. That includes post 9/11, post San Bernardino, post Paris, post Pulse. So this is something that we're facing. So a lot of the times with the work that I do civil rights work for anyone that's being marginalized or discriminated against, while there's a focus on the Muslim community. And so I was just in Brevard County recently, and in Brevard County there is a hate group that is pushing an anti-Islamic agenda across the country, and their sole purpose is to marginalize a group of people based on their faith, based on how they pray. And usually people can't really sometimes tell what religion I practice or what my background is. So sometimes I walk in, I'm kind of petite. I don't look like I'm about to, get in your face or break it down. So like there was this Brevard County Public School hearing, and basically this hate group wanted to remove about 2 or 3 paragraphs of content of Islam in the 9th grade world history books. And they tried to do this in 2013 and 2014. And I'll share this story with you because it can show you like the obstacles I face internally and externally, right?
Yep, let me make sure. Good. All right, I do. All right, yes.
So I walk in, and obviously, we have the local mosque that are there, the brothers from that mosque. We have the students that attend Brevard County Public Schools, and obviously we have the hate group. So the testimonials began, and the brothers that are, the mosque goers there locally are coming to our mosque, learn about who we are as Muslims, and obviously the powerful stories of students and how they contribute to society in Brevard, whether that be through sports or educational programs, and they are 4.0 GPAs. And obviously then we have the hate group talking about why that you should not include Islam, and declaring that Islam is unethical, so it's dishonest information in the textbook. And so basically when I get up there, I don't look visibly and identifiably Muslim, and I just call them out for being a hate group, and that they're not worried or concerned about the education of Brevard County Public School students. They just want to marginalize a community. Afterwards, someone from that hate group testified, and they're like, that girl is a terrorist, she works for a terrorist organization, and I want to talk to that Muslim brother. And I just remember thinking, okay, so my community, I always tell them that you have to be able to detect who is worth engaging. Like right now we're having an honest conversation. You really want to understand there's misconceptions, but people that have this intention to just to have a form of bigotry against you is wrong. So I will not engage in that.
Good for you.
And I remember.
Nor should you.
Nor
should you ever waste 1 second.
And no one should, right?
No one should.
And then I remember walking, and then the Muslim community kept trying to engage with them, but they wanted to engage me because I was controversial and I ruffled their feathers. And they would say, one of the guys like, when's the last time you've been to Saudi Arabia? And I'm thinking, I'm not going to answer this question because I know it's not a question of really wanting to understand. It's just a question because he's trying to lead me into what he thinks Islam is about. And I just shrugged my shoulders and I kept walking. And then he's like, do you know what they say in the Quran? Meanwhile, the other Muslim brothers kept trying to tell him, oh, that's not all Muslims, and trying to explain themselves and justify themselves. And I remember when I turned around, another elderly male, had to be in his 60s, got in my face and said, you're a terrorist, just like that. And I remember thinking, I'm going to go over and tell a police officer, you need to leave me alone. So I go to the police officer, and he's arguing with the police officer, and the police officer's like, I will have you leave if you don't leave her alone. So after a while, the Muslim brothers, I could tell that they felt like I was harsh or I was aggressive. And I was like, listen, I'm wearing my civil rights hat. These are not people that you should invite into your mosque. In actuality, this same group has asked for Muslims to be killed. So do not invite these people in the mosque. They don't have any intention of getting to know who you are, what Islam is really about. And so the brothers were like, sister, you were really harsh, and maybe you shouldn't have been so harsh, and maybe you should have just came from a soft angle. And I remember calling my boss, who's, a male, and I was like, do you think that they would have had that reaction if I was you?
A male.
Yeah. If I came as you, as a guy. So I share that story because it shows, I think, the discrimination as, in an Islamophobic world, and then maybe like just being a sister in the activism world. But I love sharing the story because so one of the guys from the hate group, obviously now he's determined to follow me around, and I was invited to speak again at another organization on a panel about immigration. It wasn't even about, Islamophobia. And he showed up, and the Muslim brothers, they knew, from that mosque, knew that he was coming, and they all showed up to stand in solidarity with me. Wow. And then they all made sure that I got to my car safely. They made sure that I wasn't standing by myself. And for me, and it's not so much, I think, that they were being sexist, or I think in this world, it's just you know, you want to be peace and loving and compassionate, and you think that you can win people over, and you should be able to. But in reality, if there's an intention to just be discriminatory and hateful, then you have to be able to show strength, which is what, you know, also Islam and other religions teach, is to stand up for justice unconditionally.
All right.
You're right.